So if you haven't seen my most recent episode on Baldur, make sure you check that episode out because, yeah, this is a very punishing creature that can, well, be quite brutal to your opponents, and there are ways to use and abuse this quite easily. But don't leave just yet, because on this episode, well, I have, as you probably have already seen, from the thumbnail and the title of this episode, one word for wizards with this card. Stop. Stop it. Bad wizards. Okay, that was more than one word, but yeah, stop. So to find out why I'm saying that, well, let's jump into the card. And the card that prompted this response from myself is Ancient Copper Dragon. It is a 6/5 Elder Dragon with flying, and that's right, there are Elder Dragons in the set that are not legendary, and I'm probably pretty happy that this isn't legendary because I would not want to go up against it. That costs 4 red. It says, whenever Ancient Copper Dragon deals combat damage to a player, roll a d20. You create a number of treasure tokens equal to the result. Now, really quick, you might have seen a previous episode from this spoiler season on Blood Money, where, my thoughts were exactly, what you see on the screen, the puke face emoji. And yeah, after that card, I was hoping we weren't going to see any more mass treasure producers, but here we are. Now, obviously, this mass treasure producer is dependent on actually connecting with an opponent, but, it has flying, so chances are highly likely it's going to be able to get through on at least one player. And also, because it's a combat damage trigger, there are actually quite a few ways that we can use and abuse this trigger to make an absurd amount of treasures. Or, should I say, you can luck into making an absurd amount of treasures because, again, you are rolling a d20 to determine that amount. So you're going to be making between 1 and 20. Now, on average, you're going to be making around 10 or so, which is an absurd amount. And again, if you can get that trigger more than once, you've got the potential to get, 20 treasures off of one roll, and you've got the potential to get even more off of 2. And of course, there are ways to basically go infinite with this as well pretty easily, but those ways are also kind of obnoxious because it's not technically infinite since there is, that randomness to the rolls, so you're gonna have to play it out as well. But yeah, like I mentioned on previous episodes, it seems like, recently they have been, having, some effects that make treasures that do come to play tapped, which is a nice limiting factor. It's still, not enough in some scenarios, but it is a nice limiting factor. And for some reason, they didn't do it on this. So, again, you can just have kind of like a big swing that just, chaotically causes 20 treasures to be made because of a lucky roll. And then all of a sudden, that player just runs away with the game because they get 20 free mana off of this one card. Now, obviously, on the other end with this, you definitely could whiff. I mean, you could roll a 1 and just end up with 1 treasure. But still, on average, you're going to get around 10 or so. So, yeah, this can get you way ahead of your opponents, and we don't need any more mass treasure producing effects. We really don't, wizards. Please just stop. When they were unique and one-off effects, for the most part, they were pretty fine, but now it's just becoming very ubiquitous, and treasures are truly taking over Commander games. When you just give someone a ton of free mana just tacked on to a spell, essentially, and again, a repeatable way with this one, too, it's going to lead to some very kind of swingy situations where it's like, yeah, okay, that player just ran away with the game because they got a lucky roll. Great. And again, it is not hard to use and abuse this effect, and yeah, there definitely should have been a lot more limitations. First up, it should have been a D20. I understand that there's probably a cycle of these because we've seen another one before, but it shouldn't have been a D20. D10 maybe, okay? Just overall, yeah, I'm not excited to see another mass treasure producer that is making treasures even more ubiquitous in Commander. It's becoming problematic. Wizards, stop it. Please. Now, like I referenced earlier, there are some ways to essentially go infinite with this, though, again, it is technically infinite because you do need to actually play it out because, again, of that roll, it being random, well, you have to actually keep getting enough treasures to actually keep doing these. But yeah, Aggravated Assault, Hellkite Charger are 2 cards that can pretty easily go infinite with this. Aggravated Assault is an expensive and effective card. It has pay 3 red, untap all creatures you control after this phase, additional combat phase, additional main phase, place ability only time you cast a sorcery. Basically, pay 5 mana, get an extra combat. So yeah, again, like I said, on average with that D20 roll, you're gonna roll what, like around a 10? So as long as you don't just kind of completely whiff and roll a 1, 2, 3, or 4, you are going to get the needed treasures that you, well, need to essentially activate this and do it again. And even if you do whiff on the first 1 or 2 and you get, 3 or 4 treasures or whatnot, you probably have enough mana to pay, for the rest of this to just keep trying again until you actually hit something higher, which can then pay, essentially if you hit a D20, right, if you hit 20, you can pay for 4 of these, essentially. So, yeah, I mean, again, it's essentially infinite, though, again, you do need to play it out because, well, there are chances that you could just keep whiffing. Though, I think if you actually get this going in a game and you're playing against players, once you get the first few, yeah, players are probably just going to say, sure, you got it. Congratulations, you win. In a similar way, there's Hellkite Charger, which, yes, now, I mean, this combination in Dragon Tribal decks is going to exist. Great, we needed another one. A 5/5 flying hasty dragon that has when it attacks, you may pay 5 red. If you do, untap all attacking creatures, and after this phase, there's no combat phase. Basically, yeah, same thing as Aggravated Assault, except it's on a creature, which is a dragon, obviously. So again, for Dragon Tribal, it works. And then, yeah, it is a slightly higher threshold of it being 7 mana instead of just 5. And also, you're probably just going to have to pay that 7 mana on your own without treasures the first time, because obviously, your creature has to actually hit to actually get those treasures. But still, again, it is basically near infinite, or, infinite technically, treasures, infinite technically combats. It's just that you actually have to play it out because you could whiff and miss. Of course, you don't need to go infinite with this to get a ton of value out of it, though. I mean, even just a standard extra combat spell like Relentless Assault, which says untap all creatures that attack this turn after this main phase, additional combat phase, while additional main phase. In other words, you get an extra combat. Yeah, for a 4 mana spell, getting to swing again with all your creatures, and potentially, and most likely, getting, at least probably 6 more mana than you put into this, from your trigger. Yeah, this is going to be well worth it, and so is basically any other extra combat spell in combination with this new Elder Dragon. Next up, like I mentioned earlier, we can also take advantage of this trigger even further, because when we hit a player and we've got, say, double strike on this creature, well, we get that trigger twice. So, of course, there are plenty of fantastic pieces of equipment and, cards in red that grant double strike, like, Fire Shrieker, and equip creature as double strike. Just very simple, but incredibly effective with this creature. Again, by rolling 2d20s, we're going to, more consistently get a solid amount of treasures out of this creature. And yeah, there are definitely going to be times where you whiff twice, but there's also going to be the same amount of times, essentially, that you hit it twice, and you hit, say, again, 2 20s, and you've got 40 treasures from there. From 1 creature and 1 equipment on just 1 attack. And again, that's without an extra combat. You had an extra combat in there, and the potential is obviously even higher. Yeah, good luck to your opponents trying to keep up with that. And of course, I mean, in red, we also have some enchantments that can help out, like Blood Mist. It gives one of our creatures double strike at the beginning of combat on our turn, and Rage Reflection, which just straight up gives all of our creatures double strike all the time. Regardless of how you go about doing this, yeah, double strike plus this creature can equal giant massive play. And of course, we can even take advantage of this trigger with something like Shronic Resonator, which has pay 2, tap, copy target triggered ability. You control, you may choose targets for the copy. And yes, that's going to be well worth the 2 mana that you put into this, because, yeah, I mean, chances are when you roll that d20, it's very unlikely you're going to roll a 1 or a 2. So you're going to be getting more mana than you put into this. And if, again, you roll that 20, great, you just got 18 mana for a 2 mana ability. So yeah, things can get really out of hand if you've got the right setup and in the right deck for this card. And of course, this new dragon works well in a dice rolling deck, because again, you're going to be rolling dice, obviously. Barbarian class, While, I believe it's While, Pixie Guide are just a few cards that, well, can really help you make the most of those dice rolls. Barbarian classes, if you'd roll 1 or more dice, instead roll that many dice plus 1 and ignore the lowest. And then the other 2 essentially say the exact same thing, but yeah, being able to essentially eliminate your lower roll and just get the higher roll is going to help you make a ton of treasures with this dragon more consistently. So this is just yet another way to take advantage of this trigger. I mean, we already talked about additional combats, some of which are, kind of infinite-ish. We already talked about double strike. We talked about, doubling up on a trigger with something like a Shronic Resonator. And of course, take advantage of dice rolls. There's plenty of ways to use and abuse this, and we're not even done yet. Because, of course, we can also take advantage of all these treasures that we're making with something like Academy Manufacturer, which says if you create a clue, food, or treasure token, instead create 1 of each. Yeah, this card is just going to keep getting more and more expensive, again, with all these treasure producers that we are getting, all these mass treasure producers. And yeah, cool. All right, we hit with our dragon, we roll our d20. Oh, we get 10 treasures. We also get 10 clues and 10 food tokens with this in play now, too, because we really needed all that card draw and all that life gain on top of it. So yeah, I can see this card continuing to go up in price with, every kind of mass, treasure producer we see spoiled. And cards, that just always go up in price regardless are token doublers with cards like Annoy Procession and Doubling Season. Annoy Procession says when effect create one or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many of those tokens instead, and Doubling Season basically does that, but on top of that, it, doubles up counters, but again, in this example, yeah, doubling up your treasures is an incredibly powerful thing, and there's a reason these cards are incredibly expensive. I mean, I think Doubling Season's like $80 or so at this point. Ridiculous. But yeah, overall, again, there are a ton of ways to use and abuse treasure tokens. And I didn't even mention like Goldspan Dragon. I should have mentioned that one too. Yeah, that lets you, use your treasures for 2 mana instead of just 1. So there are tons of ways to use and abuse treasures. And Wizards, please stop making mass treasure makers. Treasures in many ways are becoming far too ubiquitous and in many cases annoying. Now, of course, I can see this card seeing a lot of play, in Dragon tribal decks, like the Dragon, because, yeah, who doesn't want the Dragon with that giant treasure producer? Dragon can reduce the cost of your dragons, whether it's in the command zone or on the battlefield, by 1, so yeah, play this dragon for 5. On the next turn, swing with it, make a ton of treasures, get the Dragon out, because when the Dragon's out, well, whenever one or more dragons you control attack, draw that many cards, you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. I mean, not that you really need to be able to cheat things into play when you've got an incredible amount of treasures. Next up, if you like spinning the wheel, how about Sign of the Dragon? Yeah, pay 2, search your library for a dragon permanent card, put it in your graveyard. If you do, Sign of the Dragon comes a copy of that card until end of turn, then shuffle your library. So yeah, if you're feeling lucky and you need a ton of mana, well, just, attack with Sign of the Dragon, pay 2, go get yourself this brand new dragon, put in your graveyard, make Scion a copy of that, and then say, okay, let's see what we roll. Again, you could whiff and, actually get, 1 treasure back for the 2 mana that you put into that, but you also could just hit, a ton of mana. You could hit that 20, and then you just gained, again, 18 mana, essentially, just for that. So, yeah, you can really run away with the game quickly with that. Also, of course, another consideration is commanders that deal with dice rolls, like Farida, Devil's Chosen. Farida has, whenever you roll 1 or more dice, Farida, Devil's Chosen gets Flying and Menace on a turn, and if any of those results was 10 or higher, draw a card. So yeah, giving your commander Flying Menace, not bad. Drawing a card every single time you roll high, that's pretty good. So of course, a repeatable effect on this dragon can definitely help out this kind of a commander, on top of just, giving you a ton of treasures. And the final commander that I want to bring up that might utilize this new dragon is one that probably, well, really depends upon, what kind of a level of, competitiveness you're playing at, but Najeela the Blade Blossom. Najeela is a 3/2 human warrior that has whenever a warrior attacks, you may have its controller create a 1/1 white warrior creature token that's tapped and attacking. And by paying Wooburg, you untap all attacking creatures that gain trample, lifelink, and haste until end of turn. After this phase, there's no combat phase, activate only during combat. So for that first swing, you will have to pay Wooburg on your own, oh no, with my lands and stuff, to actually, get that untapped. That being said, again, like Aggravated Assault, as long as you can keep getting enough treasures to pay for this after that, you just get infinite combats. Or again, I should say, basically infinite, because yeah, you could whiff. But more likely, you'll get at least 5 treasures. But yeah, overall, and I should have mentioned this earlier, my apologies, you are completely fine to be excited about this card. Absolutely, you can be excited. I just am not, and I think there are a good amount of Commander players out there now that kind of feel in a similar way that treasures are just becoming a bit too ubiquitous and just kind of, in some ways, obnoxious with the amount of ways that we now have to just generate a ton of free mana incredibly quickly, and it just kind of just changes the game just on a dime, just with this kind of a card where it's like, okay, yeah, I rolled a 20 after attacking with this once, and now I am so far ahead of everyone else at the table that it is going to be impossible for them to catch up. And again, with all the ways to abuse this and just treasures in general, yeah, I'm just not excited to see another mass treasure producer. But yeah, on a more exciting note, yes, there are going to be even more exciting spoilers coming out in the near future, so make sure you're staying tuned to this channel for even more exciting quick takes. How many times can I say exciting? Sorry, exciting. I need another cup of coffee. And with that, the show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.